the young people who graduate from this culinary arts school go on and get very fine jobs as chefs. We have some in this city, in San Angelo.
Yep.
Some of you may have worked for them while you were in high school. Who are some of the chefs in San Angelo that went to the same culinary arts school?
I interned for Chef Jason at Peasant Village.
Yes.
He went to.
I didn't have the privilege of working with him.
And I may be wrong, but I think the chefs at the Silo
Yes.
are
Yes, they
from
are.
that same culinary arts school, and I got to chat with them recently at the Ms. Bickle's class. We were all reminded by Ms. Bickle to make sure that our audience understands that it would be impossible for most people to go to this very expensive school without the scholarships. And the Restaurant Association here in San Angelo is one of the most generous, hard-working. They do fundraisers just for y'all's scholarships.
Yes, they do.
Several of them. So we are I personally and the school district are very grateful, as well as you all, for our Restaurant Association. And regular college anywhere is very expensive, but this school is very expensive. It's
Yes.
outstanding. What's the official name of this school?
Johnson and Wales University.
Johnson and Wales University, yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about what courses you're taking. Are you all taking the same courses?
No.
Okay, Lisa, start with you.
Me and Brian are actually taking the same courses. We're doing baking and pastry, but Angelina's doing culinary, so it's very different. I mean, we have labs that we have to take, and our labs are actually 23 days, and hers are 9. So it's very different. It's totally different atmospheres, and it's way different.
Well, they're different majors.
Yeah.
And then what other courses are you taking?
I took my first trimester. I had English and career development and all the core academic classes. And next trimester, Brian will be taking the second set of academics. So I think.
So your
are like
university
cost
is
control.
on the trimester
Yes.
Yes.
model, which now, so you've actually had 2 semesters and are
Yes.
beginning your 3rd
Yes.
semester. Okay, I understand that. What courses have you been taking this year?
Well, with culinary, it's a little different. Like she said, she takes labs that are 22 days, and we take labs that are 9 days. But that's because we have so many different labs. We have hot labs to beverage labs, which is you get your mixology license in there, and you do storeroom, meat cutting. You actually get whole slabs of half a cows, and you get to cut them up in front of you.
Have you done that yet?
Yep.
Could you recognize a pork chop from a?
Yes.
Okay,
That's part of the
well,
class in
good.
order to pass. That's the test. Like, they'll put meats in front of you, and you have to identify them. And even in that class, you have one day where you have a whole entire pig, head and all, and you have to take it apart and identify every part of it.
Oh my.
So, yeah, it's a little more intense because we have so many different things going on, and 9 days is a very short amount of time to get it all in one. But the way your instructors are and they teach you, you actually receive all the information and understand it the way they teach you, because they all own their own restaurants. They've all gone through school. It's not just random people out there. They're actually recognized chefs out there. So,
Isn't it considered one of the top 5 culinary arts universities or schools in our nation?
It's number 2.
yeah.
It's number 2. Wow. Well, that's why it's so outstanding. It's no wonder young people that graduate from there get good jobs. I wouldn't expect to see you in anything less than a very nice restaurant when you get through. I asked the question earlier, are you going to come home for the summer or stay? And you, Lisa, and Brian said y'all will come home for the summer. And what will you do this summer?
Eat lots of Mexican food.
The
Can't
Mexican
get the same food
yeah.
in Colorado.
Mexican
There's
food up
no
there
comparison.
is not Mexican food down here.
And that's true of most of our country. So what you're going to stay, and I thought it was interesting what you're going to do this summer. You're going to stay at the university and work.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, our university does a program where you can, it's not quite work study, it's just working for the summer for them, and you can work in any of their offices they have, and you get to live on campus for free. And what I'm working in is admissions, and we help give tours. We answer the phone calls, give any, answers to any students, their parents that have any questions about the university, and a lot of students that they take in are students that are very involved on campus because you experience everything on campus and basically know how it works because you know a lot of the faculty and you know how to give tours, like all the buildings, what goes and happens in all the buildings even though you're not a part of that major, because our college isn't only just culinary, it's also a bunch of other majors.
Okay, but the culinary arts school at that university is what is so outstanding.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why it's 4 years. I had the misconception when I first came to San Angelo and found out about the marvelous culinary arts program at Central High School, that when you went to a culinary arts school, it was maybe like a 2-year program where you just got a certification, but this is a college degree and from the second finest school in the country in culinary arts. You all, and I know Ms. Bickle allows you to become a specialist while you work for her, or most young people do, and you find out which part of culinary arts you like the best. When you were in high school, tell me what your specialty was, and do you still see that that's going to be your specialty through your college? Lisa?
I liked baking in general. I worked for City Cafe and Bakery, and I helped Susan with a lot of her wedding cakes and
does she ever more make good cakes?
Yeah, she definitely does. She's made the best I've ever had. So
her icing's great.
And so I originally had liked cakes, but when I came into the baking program at Johnson & Wales, my first lab was breads, and I really like to bake breads because I love to eat breads. So I'm thinking maybe breads and cakes would probably be...
At this point, that's your interest.
Yes.
Okay, Brian, what about you?
The first trimester of school, I had labs. I had breads and I had classical French. Before, in the culinary program at Central, I was more of like a culinary. I didn't really bake and stuff. And then when I got to Johnson & Wales, I joined the baking and pastry program. I like the breads class. It's interesting. You learn a lot that you never knew before about different breads and different pastries, the history of them, and how they came about. And it's really interesting. I like the breads class.
So at this point, that's what you're... Now keep in mind, when you come again, I'm going to ask you the same question, because we all change. I went to college thinking I was going to major in piano, and over time I kept that as a minor, but majored in a different subject. What about you?
Actually, in Bickle's class, I was one of her bakers.
I remember.
Did a lot of her baking and pastry. But I went to Johnson & Wales for the culinary program just because I wanted to jump into something that I'm not quite used to, not my comfort zone. And I've actually grown to love culinary. It's so wide range, like you're not confined to one recipe and you have to follow that. It's so open book, like you can throw anything together and it makes a fantastic dish.
Is culinary primarily the main dish of a meal? Preparing the main dish of a meal?
Yes.
Wow. Well, I am pleased that you're open-minded because you may next year take a course that you like even better, and finding what you're really good at will be great. I think I remember asking you this. Who of you hoped to come back to San Angelo, and who hoped to maybe set up and go to work in a restaurant in other cities. Now, how do you feel since you've been away 7 months or so? Do you think at any point you would come back to San Angelo, or would you today think you might try working in another city for a while? Let's start here, Angelina.
I remember saying that I'd probably start in a city, and I think I'm probably going to stay to that because I've absolutely fallen in love with Denver. It's beautiful up there, so much to do, like you won't ever be bored. So if I ever come back, it'd probably be a small little restaurant, just for family size restaurant, just for the fun of it.
Well, that's not a bad thing to work someplace else like you are this summer, and then to later come back. I think you appreciate your hometown more if you've been away, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think when our daughter graduated from high school, she said, I will never come back and live in that particular city. And now that she has children and living in Virginia, she said, I would give anything. Brian, what are you thinking at this point where you would like to go to work?
The first time you asked me this question, I said that I would probably come back because I've never, been anywhere else. But being out of state and everything, I would probably start off somewhere else, not back in San Angelo, and then eventually come back.
That's good. Lisa?
I can't tell you I wouldn't be here, but I'm for sure. Next year we have an externship that we can go do or do a co-op, and I definitely want to go and try like Hawaii and something very very different. And if I ended up liking it there, then I would probably, stay there or go somewhere else. I probably would not come back to San Angelo. Maybe later, but not for the beginning of my career.
Well, while you're young, if you get opportunities, you won't. Some of those will not come your way again. So I would encourage you, even though your families would miss you terribly, to take an opportunity. If you had a chance to work for a window of time, you will. The little things that might have bothered you about this city won't look as big and important after you've been away. You'll have to admit the traffic in Denver is a lot worse than in San Angelo. Well, I'm so proud of you, and I know Ms. Bickle is proud of you, and you know this. The students that are there now, her 70 students, are watching you. And I don't mean that as a burden, but they will watch this interview and they will want to know, what is it really like? So talk to me, what's been the hardest thing about living in Denver and going to school?
I think the hardest thing for me is, even though I love it, would probably be getting used to snow and the -4-degree weather. You literally can't breathe outside, and it's something hard to get used to. But class-wise, for me, would have to be the 9-day segments, because at first you feel a little rushed and it gets a little overwhelmed, but if you learn how to manage your time and do your homework right, it's not as hard. It really isn't.
Well, Ms. Bickle prepares you to be successful at hard programs, because even though she's one of the nicest people, she has high expectations and she allows y'all, when I've been in, as I was a week or so ago in her classroom while they were cooking and the chefs from the silo were there, when you all have the big equipment and the knives that are very sharp out, you don't play. But that doesn't mean you're in prison either. She allows great fun conversations to go on, but she expects it to be done right. And that's why you are being successful at an outstanding school. What has been the hardest thing for you, Brian?
Just getting used to being away from home and going to class early in the morning and things like that. Like, I had labs in the AM segment, so I had to get up at like 6 and be at class by 6:50. you get ready to go. That was probably the hardest thing for me.
I understand that. And a lot of freshmen don't get to those first classes regularly. But the ones who don't get there don't stay in school. What about you, Lisa?
It's definitely the homesickness. I miss my Mexican food, I miss my home, I miss the warm weather. I mean, it's just a totally different atmosphere up there. So getting used to that at first was really hard, missing your family and things. I had academics first, so I actually had a lot easier time. I'm sure if I had labs first, it would have been crazy. But it was probably mostly just homesickness.
Yeah, I can appreciate that because I went a long way away to college as well. What has been a surprise? Have you had any surprises that have been good surprises that you didn't expect? Lisa?
It being so much easier than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting trying to stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning finishing term papers, and I managed my time very well.
Well, you've got to keep doing that too.
Yeah.
Brian, what has been a pleasant surprise for you?
It's definitely easier than I thought it would be. I thought I was just going to be tons of homework and no time to do it, but there's definitely time to do homework, and it's not a bunch of work, so that's definitely a surprise for me. I thought I was going to be buried in academic stuff. It's a lot less than I thought.
Good.
For me, not trying to sound repetitive, but basically the same thing. I wasn't so worried about labs because we got told by our chefs in our week of welcome that you'll only have one project to do in your 9 days. So you have 9 days to finish it, and it's just one project. You don't have to worry about anything else because they want you to study, focus on the cooking and the actual participation in class. But once the first trimester was over and I was heading into academics, I was getting a little scared because all my friends, college students, told me academics are hard. They're hard. They're so much harder than high school. And I went into them and I was just surprised that it wasn't as hard as they made it seem. And I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to do anything like any organizations or anything because I love being part of organizations, and it keeps you busy and it makes time go by so much faster. We're almost done with our first year, and I'm we're almost done, and it just keeps me busy. I'm constantly on the go, and I actually have time to do my homework and all the organizations I'm in.
Well, you came from a good high school and from a great culinary program that prepared you. You wouldn't have gotten first accepted to this school and given the scholarships you've been given if you weren't good students. But you still have to go to class and turn in your work because no matter how smart you are, you have to go to class and put forth the effort. I want to visit with you again next year, and let's see where you are progressing, because students need to know, they need to hear from you. It is hard, and you do have to go to class, but you can do it, and Central prepares you, and that's one of the biggest messages coming out of this. And to get involved in programs at college, because you only get college one opportunity, one shot at this as a young person like this. Thank you all so much for coming, and bless you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.